I want to get to a couple tweets here before we bring on Mike Brown, if I could. First one from @GTD Podcast 1. Will Eddie Alvarez's toughness and willingness to slug, Kenny, be his downfall versus Conor McGregor?
Well, I think that Eddie Alvarez has changed his style, and there are we talked about Mousasi earlier, how there's a few different Gegard Mousasi. There is a few different Eddie Alvarez's out there. There's, the Rocky Eddie Alvarez, the guy who wants to go out there and slug. If he does that against someone like Conor, he will be in trouble. I think Conor is going to be the slicker striker for sure, and him being a southpaw and being able to fight on the inside like he does would not be the best decision for Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez can wrestle, though. He has shown the ability to execute very good game plans like he did against Anthony Pettis. I think he's going to have to mix things up. I mean, to just go out there and just look for a takedown against someone like Conor, it's going to be difficult as well. Conor knows that. So it's no easy task. It's not an easy fight for either guy. Eddie Alvarez has shown that he does have an amazing chin. We've seen him in a lot of wars over the years, but him working with Mark Henry and the guys over at Ricardo Almeida school, I think he's going to be ready for this fight, and I think that's a live dog right there.
It's a two-word answer for me, Mark Henry. I
Yes.
mean, Eddie just derived so much confidence from that relationship and certainly made a lot of strides with Henry Hoof, but he almost talks about Mark Henry as if he's like a second wife, that,
Right.
he just opened up his eyes. And I find it hard to believe that they're going to get into early reckless exchanges. I mean, is that not goal number one, to avoid anything resembling the reckless against Conor McGregor early? So I don't think that his toughness will be something that works against him come November 12th. All right, next up, @Stevie Fenn. Do you guys understand Jose Aldo's frustrations, and do you agree that it would be a massive shame if he left? Kenny, I'll start here. Certainly, I think we all agree it would be a damn shame if he left right now, because he showed you at UFC 200 just how much fight there is left in the greatest featherweight of all time. And I do understand his frustrations, but I also understand Dana White's side, and he can't make Conor McGregor fight in a weight class or fight an opponent that he doesn't want to fight. And at least right now, the decision that they made was to allow Conor to become a simultaneous two-division champion, and all sources point to them stripping him of that featherweight title, or having him vacated, I guess is the way to put it. But at least right now, Kenny, it's a sticky situation with Jose Aldo.
It really is. It's unfortunate. I do understand his frustration in that he wants the same treatment, or wanted the same treatment as a champion as Conor McGregor is getting now. The difference is, and it doesn't mean it's right, but the difference is that Conor McGregor is a much bigger star. He's a guy that not only is bringing in a high level of skill, but he's bringing in a lot of fans, and that's something that Jose Aldo wasn't quite able to do. So obviously, he's going to get preferential treatment. He's going to be able to do things like keep his belt for a little bit. And for Jose Aldo's side, here's a guy who wanted to fight Anthony Pettis, and he was told that if he did go up to 55, he would have to vacate his belt. Dana White saying that, Conor will have to give up one of the belts if he does beat Eddie Alvarez, which, hopefully they stick to. But this sport is so different than the NBA or the NFL, where you kind of work your way up, you beat the guys, and
Right.
there's a direct path to that world championship. In the fight game, it's a combination of pro wrestling, right? Kind of like the business side, the promotion side of it, and then there's the actual skill side of it, the fighter, who that fighter is, what he brings to the table. And fighters kind of forget about that stuff. That, yes, it does matter that if you're an amazing fighter, if you bring us a high skill level, if you've had the belt for a long time. But at the end of the day, this is a business. That is how you get paid. Conor McGregor has been able to balance those two things extremely well, unlike any fighter we have seen before. So I do get Jose Aldo's frustrations, but I do get the UFC side of things, where they say, well, wait a sec. Jose Aldo hasn't been so consistent with showing up healthy to fights. He has dropped out of a lot of fights. It doesn't mean he should be treated that way, but I do get both sides of the coin.
When I first became an MMA fan, I had a real hard time with the fact that the most worthy guys didn't necessarily get the championship fights. And
Right.
my first indoctrination into mixed martial arts, at least in a working capacity other than MMA Live, was under Bjorn Rebney, who was the biggest UFC fan I had met in my life at that point in time. And his goal was to try to take matchmaking and that process out of the equation. And, I think, I guess it worked to varying degrees and didn't work to other degrees, but ultimately that's easier said than done. And there are obviously a lot of factors that go into it. Jose Aldo does have a belt right now. It's not the belt that he wants, but hopefully we get clarity to this situation, and hopefully Aldo moves on, into this part of his career into UFC, because I just, again, man, I'm just hoping to call a Jose Aldo fight before the book closes with him inside the octagon. Next up from Kyle J. Harris. Any guesses, Kenny, on this post-UFC 205 announcement from Conor McGregor? Bro, I got no idea.
Man, I don't know either. I don't know if he's planning on taking a boxing match with someone like Floyd Mayweather. Of course, that's something that's been talked about for a while. I don't know. Is he talking about retirement, leaving with 2 belts? Is he talking about going up to 170 pounds and maybe challenging someone like George St. Pierre? I do not know.
I think that it's the welterweight title. I mean, that's the only thing that I can really think of. I don't think it's to announce that he's, getting engaged or that his longtime girlfriend is pregnant. I think it's a fight-related announcement. And I think if at that point in time he has a featherweight belt over one shoulder and a lightweight title over the other shoulder, I think Woodley Thompson will have just played out. I think he calls out the winner and tries to become a 3-division UFC champion.
What an animal. I mean, it's crazy. We were just talking about we haven't seen any fighter like Conor McGregor ever. And again, if he were to do that, again, the legacy of Conor McGregor would continue. That'd be unbelievable.
TJ, what do you got?
Can we stop this whole Conor McGregor is going to box Floyd Mayweather? It's not going to happen anywhere.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
it's just fun to talk about.
That's like saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I won the lottery? Like, it's fun.
Hey,
it's fun to talk about.
If CM Punk can fight in the UFC, Conor McGregor can fight Floyd Mayweather. Why not?
Because
an athletic
commission, real quick, an athletic commission will not license a boxer who has never boxed before to fight the world champion. Not going to happen. And what's that?
Got a bunch of amateur fights.
Amateur boxing?
Yeah.
You don't go
TJ,
from the amateur ranks.
You perpetuate this conversation by jumping in and in sort of a passive-aggressive way wanting to talk Floyd Mayweather. Are you just saying that logistically you don't think it's going to happen? I mean, he very briefly mentioned Mayweather, and you had to drag it down this path.
Well, I'm just sick of hearing it. This is ESPN, like, 1st and 10 talk. This is not real. This is, what if Michael Phelps could run as fast as he swims? Would he be would he beat Usain Bolt?
You're talking about combat sports, though. You're talking about a guy who'd be a world champion, a potential world champion in 2 different divisions in a manner, in the way of getting it done with striking, with his hands for the most part.
2 different sports. This is, what if Usain Bolt was a wide receiver for the Cowboys? Oh, he runs. That's part of the sport. Come on.
Let me tell you this. If there's a potential to make money, if there's potential for Floyd Mayweather to make perhaps the biggest payday of his life, and for Conor McGregor to make the biggest payday of his life, they would find a way to make it happen.
Saboba Casino.
If Vegas is gonna make money off it, or any other city has the potential to make money off it, they will get that thing passed. I don't believe that whole thing of they wouldn't make it happen because of the. Right. We know that money is the biggest motivator for anything, and that the fact that Conor McGregor hasn't had a high-level boxing match, I don't think that really would be a big roadblock.
I mean, I'm a little bit ignorant on some sides of this, but I feel like if they signed that fight as a boxing match, the Nevada State Athletic Commission would probably find a way to approve it. But I could be wrong. In any event, I think it's a massive long shot, and I think that Conor's future is as a UFC lightweight, but maybe as a UFC welterweight. We'll see what he has to say. Ken Flo, Daniel Cormier, Anthony Rumble Johnson, main event UFC 206, December 10th, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And firstly, I don't know why people are questioning whether or not this would be the main event. I know George St. Pierre is going to be on Ariel Helwani's show today, and I'm not sure anything's going to happen there. I think Dana White actually has ruled GSP out of this Toronto show. But why does the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship between 2 superstars, in my mind, not hold up for some people as a main event? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a tremendous main event. I think for DC, for whatever reason, I don't think he has gotten the respect that he deserves. I don't think, the fans, for whatever reason, have just haven't given him the respect. He hasn't become a real star. I think the 205-pound division, though, it's dealing with that issue of kind of everybody having fought each other, and there's not a whole lot of talk that happens besides John Jones. If John Jones is out of the picture, it almost seems like people don't pay attention to the fight.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. Perhaps hasn't been as strong as it's been as it was maybe several years ago. But it's still a phenomenal division, with or without John Jones. I think that DC, is going to have his hands full with someone like Anthony Johnson. I think they're even right now. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a pick 'em right now, according to Las Vegas. I was just going to ask you, I think the line moved around a lot the first time these two fought. Obviously, the circumstances were different. It was an abbreviated training camp on both sides, 4 or 5 weeks, I think, for DC. But I believe Cormier closed as the underdog, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing happen here, honestly.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And the problem with that is that I just don't see it going any other way as far as Anthony Johnson being able to stop the takedown against someone like Daniel Cormier. Right. If he's not able to do that, it's going to be a short night, I think, because Anthony just hasn't been able to develop as much as a grappler, as a guy who can, get back to his feet quickly. He can work the sweeps. He's a threat on the mat. He just hasn't been that guy for whatever reason. On the feet now, he's able to knock out anyone as heavy as heavyweight. He's got that kind of power. Some of the craziest power you'll see in the sport. Henry Hooft, who has over 100 fights in his Muay Thai and kickboxing career, has worked with some of the best fighters in the world, says that Anthony Johnson is probably the hardest hitting guy he's ever worked with. So he has that natural power that if he lands that shot against Daniel Cormier, he could put him out. He wasn't able to do it last time, which is a testament to the kind of chin that Cormier has.
Yeah, it's a fascinating fight. And, the Rumble Johnson-John Jones fight that was made once before is also a very fascinating fight. Gustafsson sort of on the outside looking in at this point. But I think the division is healthier than a lot of people would let on. There aren't a ton of guys on the roster at 205 pounds right now. But the thing about Cormier, and I remember Brian Stan always talking about when you train with the guy, you realize just how elite an athlete he is and how hard it is to get up. That's the number one thing for Rumble Johnson. Can he get up? Right. Expeditiously, right? Eventually, you think maybe he gets taken down, he'll find his way back to his feet. But can he, with the help of Neil Melanson, really work hard on a quick get-up? Because, on a napkin in the center of the octagon, a lot of people like his chances. A lot of people like me believe he's the biggest power threat with, 6 or 8 of those limbs that we've ever seen inside the octagon. So the star power potential for Rumble Johnson is there, but very tricky stylistic matchup for him. And I know for DC, obviously he's getting up there, maybe 2 or 3 fights left. Again, that's pure speculation, but this is one he would certainly really like to have to further cap what has been, to your point, a very underrated legacy for him.